Now that we have commenced our final approach into Sydney Smith Airport, please ensure that you have your seat backs in the upright position and that your seatbelts are securely fastened. The cabin crew ensure that all ways are clear and resume their seats for landing.
January 1788, Captain Arthur Phillip's first fleet dropped anchor in Sydney Cove. After 6 months of sailing from England with spells of fair weather and long stretches of foul, arriving at an uncivilised and likely to be hostile land, the only word of encouragement the commander could give his utterly weary, despairing charges was hope. That evening, Phillip was rowed ashore, and in the presence of his officers and a marine guard, he hoisted the Union Jack and proclaimed a new British colony. He named it Sydney in honour of Viscount Sydney, Secretary of State for the Home Department which administered colonial affairs.
It's 7:07. Margaret Bates has Triple M News and Info coming up shortly if you're on the roll.
At an early hour, cars, buses and electric trains converged towards the Harbour Bridge, conveying tens of thousands of workers from the northern suburbs.
Morning, get up and stop yawning. Start the day when the family awakes to Kellogg's cornflakes. There's plenty to munch on, lots of goodness to crunch on. Golden Kellogg's cornflakes will get you on your way.
One of the more pleasant ways for workers to commute from the North Shore suburbs is by ferry and hydrofoil. There's a carefree aura about them, and with good reason. Nowhere else in the world can offer a more inspiring start to the day's work than ferrying across Sydney Harbour. The Centre Point Tower is the highest structure in Australia and dominates the Sydney skyline.
Well, what I think is one of the most distinctive things about Sydney is the Opera House and how it's a really interesting talking point, and that you don't find that sort of building in every city.
The Opera House was opened in 1973 to worldwide acclaim for its breathtaking design. A geometric fantasy in concrete, the Opera House is Sydney's most spectacular architectural feature. Its roof, covered with more than 1 million light-reflecting tiles, rises like glittering sails from the harbour side at Bennelong Point. Some Sydneysiders are concerned that there is a threat to the harbour by nuclear ships being allowed access to the port. They demonstrate their concerns by protesting.
such a beautiful place. The harbour is just so magnificent. We feel that it would be such a shame for it to be ruined, and could so easily be ruined forever, irrevocably by a nuclear accident. The ships coming into harbour with reactors on board, they could leak radioactive waste into our harbour, or there could be a really major accident which could devastate Sydney forever.
A unique way to see Sydney Harbour and the northern coastline is by seaplane. A regular service is provided from Rose Bay to Gosford via Palm Beach. More than 30 beaches, sun-drenched and salubrious, line Sydney's Pacific coastline like ribbons of golden sand broken by rocky headlands. The most famous, Bondi, is a mere 5 miles from the city centre. It is one of the world's finest surfing beaches.
Just for openers, we've all been here for more than 50 years, and every day that we come here, it gets better. And the only fellow that really broke the continuity is that fellow on the end there. He went across with the Nazis and stayed in Germany for the duration of the war. He reckons he was captain in Crete, but we've still all our doubts about that, you know, because he looked so healthy when he came back here. He went into the wrestling business. And I've never seen a fellow that was a Nazi captive come back and go wrestling before. That's right. Yes, he was fit, wasn't he? He was pulling our leg to some degree.
Until the early 1960s, local councils attempted to enforce strict regulations governing the dimensions of bikinis. The last recorded skirmish on the Sydney beach took place in 1961 when a young woman was ordered from the beach at Bondi and later fined £3 for offensive behaviour. The offence was wearing a small gold bikini. The young woman didn't think for a moment her bikini would be objected to, and nor would it be today.
Well, of all four of us here, we've all travelled the world, been the most well advertised and good places, and beaches galore, Hawaii and the like, and there's nothing that even looks half as good as Bondi. It's supreme, Bondi.
Maggie, Cowabunga, blank, close out, flick off, soak, copy, drop in, unflip splash, twist spin, radical, good dance now, wetsuit, flag, bell.
The 1985 JJJ Junior Surfing Championship.
With the sun shining 15 out of every 17 days throughout the year, Sydney siders take every opportunity to surf, so it's not surprising competitions are held at many of the beaches.
Jones and Luke Egan, you might remember Ross came second in this contest last year. Luke's one of Australia's hottest young goofy surfers.
Colourful windsurfers have made their appearance on Sydney Harbour and the local beaches. In fact, windsurfing has all but surpassed beer drinking as a popular pastime.
enjoy about Sydney is that there are so many relaxing and enjoyable alternatives to WORK. I've heard it said that in some places in the world people actually get bored if they don't work, but that couldn't possibly happen here because you can see for yourself there's so much to do with the climate and the harbour. It's good just gearing your lifestyle down to just working 2 or 3 days a week and just taking it easy and just relaxing and enjoying yourself. There's been a lot of talk recently in Sydney and New South Wales about law reform, but I think they should pass a law against working, or working too hard anyway. That's what I'd like to see. Cheers.
All I wanted to do when I came out of the German prison camp was to get back to Bondi Beach, the greatest place in the world.
We're determined to make Sydney Harbour nuclear free and hopefully the whole of Sydney nuclear free, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. It could take us years. I hope it doesn't take that long because I'm not sure how long we've got, but however long it takes, we will make Sydney Harbour nuclear free one day.
Once a convict settlement colonised by the British struggling to survive the hostile environment, Sydney is now observably one of the great cities of the world.